Here in the Carolinas, we are monitoring, of course, weather. It is cold, so cold I didn't even leave the house yesterday, and cloudy and just kind of a whole damper. But we're expecting even more cold and rain this week with Chris Mulcahy.
The technical term you're looking for is blah.
Blah.
Yeah.
Blick.
Yeah, and that's exactly what tomorrow's going to be, but tomorrow is actually going to be a little more iffy. Yesterday was mainly just drizzle for most of the day. That's when you're kind of walking around like this, where it's just coming at you. You would almost rather just to rain, just because it's just enough. That's just like pesky rain. Nobody wants to be like this all the time. No, it's going to rain tomorrow. This is going to be legitimate, and that's why we have a weather alert period. And our current temperature is 38 degrees right now. Let's get right to it. And our temperatures ranging all over the place. 30 degrees in Morganton, 35 in Hickory. 'Tis the season that a difference of 32 to 38 can be the difference of maybe getting ice, maybe getting snow, maybe getting all rain. And it should be mainly all rain across the area. Only exception is going to be up in the mountains. Focusing in on today, don't worry about it. We actually have a brighter forecast than was really anticipated. It was looking like we could see some. It's much brighter, and it's still going to be, I think, clouds win out, but if there is going to be a sunnier part, it's pretty much the morning, and then hour by hour it does get cloudier through the afternoon, but there will be some bright spots here and there, unlike yesterday that there was zero. Not really a motivating day whatsoever. I was grocery shopping yesterday. I just was yawning the whole time. That's the type of forecast that you have, just because it has that kind of lazy feel to it. Once you get to about 7 o'clock, that's officially when our winter weather advisory is opening up for the mountains, but even though we open up a advisory for the mountains, it is not going to affect McAdenville activities. Officially around 5:30, they have the Christmas tree lighting there. Temperatures will be in the upper 40s, falling to the mid to the lower 40s, and I don't think we see rain here in Charlotte until after midnight. There are signs that maybe you can do after 10. I think it's after midnight, so that shouldn't affect any outdoor activities that you may be doing. So let's get right to it. We are win mentality. That's the when, the impact, and the need. It's tonight into your Tuesday afternoon, but we're going to narrow that down. It is pretty much midnight to noon. That's the hours that I'm really opening up across the area, and let me bring up that graphic. From that point, that's where we're expecting most of the rain, and I think by noon, we're pretty much seeing most of it past and gone. And the biggest deal is this is more of just an impact and a nuisance for your morning commute, because you're looking at widespread rain. When we don't have much going on, you have interstate shut down on a sunny day. So anything can go for your morning commute. When you add widespread rain, you know there's going to be a lot more activity. So that's why we're weather alert for really tomorrow. Widespread cold rain. It's a nuisance there because you can have rain and then you can have a cold rain in the 30s. That's miserable. And then once you get to about noon, I think that we're going to fade things out overall. But as I mentioned, we have that winter weather advisory for Watauga, Avery, Ashe, and some of the mountainous areas of Caldwell and Burke County. You can see up to about a quarter inch of rain. The thing is, freezing rain is a self-deprecating factor. So what that means is as it freezes, it actually releases heat back into the atmosphere. So eventually you start to see a little bit more of a warmer temperature. And then once it gets above 32, you're not talking about freezing rain anymore. Because the way freezing rain works is it's actually all part of what's called the warm nose. Yes, just like this nose here. So here's what the warm nose looks like. The warm nose is above our heads. I'm talking about thousands of feet, a couple miles. It's snowing. Even sometimes during the summertime, it's snowing up there because it's a much colder part of the atmosphere. As that starts to work its way down, sometimes you can have in the middle or the lower to middle part of the atmosphere what's called warm air advection, and that's going to allow a little nose of warmer air that's above freezing. If it's shallow, you have a partially melted snowflake that refreezes into an ice pellet. Sleet. When it's a little bit wider, that warms it up to what's called supercool droplets. So when it falls back into freezing temperatures, it'll super freeze on contact, and that is freezing rain. And that's why it can be so tricky. Right now, models are all over the place. Shows an upper bound upwards to about a tenth to about a third of an inch of ice, and then other ones are a little bit more conservative, saying less than a tenth. I think a majority of the area has up to a tenth, and then we see some maybe isolated values from the National Weather Service about a quarter inch. That's usually bad when it's widespread, but since it's a little isolated, I'm not as concerned. So I'm not saying this isn't a huge impact. It's just that there's much bigger scenarios. So yes, you are going to be seeing this for several hours, but it could be a whole lot worse. So here it is. It starts right around 11 o'clock. You could see signs of wintry precipitation rolling in anytime between about 7 and 11, but it's really close to midnight that we really get this machine going. By the early morning hours, check it out. Rain, I think, is completely widespread for all 22 of the counties that we cover here for North and South Carolina by 4 a.m. It's at that point, notice the temperature that I have there, 33 degrees around Boone. At that point, I think that our freezing rain window is coming to an end. Much heavier rain as well. The worst case scenario is when you have the mid-20s and you have freezing rain, because it's tough to overcome that, especially with this intensity. That's where you pick up like about the half-inch marks that can bring down power lines. This is not that scenario. This is a winter weather advisory. We would have a winter storm warning or ice storm warning if that was going to be the case. This rain is going to continue most of your morning commute, but we start to see the back end of this by the late morning, and then by the early afternoon, it's getting out of here. If we're patient enough, you will see that sunshine, and then we might see some flurries on the back end of this, and then we cool back down. Where realistically, your Wednesday morning will be the coldest morning that we have in the near term. We're expecting our lows to drop down to about 30 degrees. By the way, the coldest that we've been has been right around 28 degrees. And then we had 32 degrees for your Thursday morning. So that is going to be the biggest highlighter that I have going forward. However, let's jump to the 7-day forecast. There is another chance for rain that is worth highlighting and looking at. So your 7-day forecast brought to you by the Jerry Hunt Super Center. We are down to the upper 40s. You have that one red bar. I'm considering moving that just to a half bar because it's not affecting the afternoon, but we'll just leave it to really make a point. And then we have the lower 50s with increasing clouds on Thursday. And then look at that, 41 back again on Friday. This time of year, if you look at the top, under my 7-day forecast, I always have the averages for the day. 58 is usually the average high. 37 is the average low. For our highs, we are completely below that for the foreseeable future. I don't see any big-time warm-ups, and even I think once we get the warm-up, we're going to be averaging the lower to the mid-50s anyways, because it is actually the beginning of what we call meteorological winter. Welcome to it. All right. And I know everyone's super excited about that. So meteorological winter just means about how we keep our record keeping. So in the meteorological world, we don't wait for the Gregorian calendar or looking to the stars to see if it's, does spring start on the 21st or the 22nd? Is it the 19th or the 20th for the equinox? Instead, it's December, January, and February, flat out. Those 3 months are winter. We just got done with astronomical or meteorological fall, which was September, October, and November, which, by the way, nothing was really too astronomically crazy with that. I was looking at some stats. It was within the top 20 for the warmest on record, but nothing really broke a record outside of that. And as you can see here for our averages, we start off meteorological winter about 58 degrees. We cool down to pretty much 52 for the month of January, and then we start to warm up even around the 60-degree point by the end of February. What's really staggering about the 7-day forecast that I'm showing you, or I can even take a step further, the 10-day forecast, everything is below normal and actually more typical for what you would expect for a typical January week. So we start off much cooler, which is interesting. It's almost like we're making up for lost time because of how warm it was, close to 80 degrees during times of November. And speaking of, since November is over, we also have to have our November recap. The highest point that we had was 80 degrees. The lowest was 28 degrees, not 29 there. That's a mistake on my part. But one interesting stat there, the little white bar, I'll read it carefully, is this was the 42nd November that we've had at least a trace of snow, and that's dating back to 1878. It wasn't wet at all. We had more dry days than anything in November, so this was actually the 8th driest and the 16th warmest month, because we had a lot of ups and downs, some major time swings that came along with this. So really interesting stuff there. So on to December, it is looking to be well below normal, not something that you typically see for this time of year, and our lows will drop down to freezing here and there, but much colder than we typically start off meteorological winter and the month of December.
Oh my gosh. So we are making up for lost time, or for October, for a warm October.
The best word to use in meteorology is called equilibrium. So we know that. We know we've learned that in science at one point.
Yeah.
The atmosphere is always trying to find its middle point. And the reason why you have big temperature swings and severe weather is because you have the adjustments of the atmosphere trying to hit that equilibrium. So that's exactly what's happening here. So oftentimes when you have the big time warm-ups, usually to balance everything out, so everything is equal in life, the circle of life, you have to have the big swing downs, which we like the swing ups compared to the swing downs for sure.
Sure do. All right, Simba. Circle of life.
Pennsylvania.
All right, Chris Mulcahy, thank you for bringing us that. Getting the warm coats all piled up, handy, right by the door.
I have 7 in my car just because we hit the time of year that it was cold in the morning and then it's warmer in the afternoon, so I have to bring all those inside and just reset.
Same. Thanks.